Disclaimer. Even though I may sound harsh towards things or people I talk about in these critique videos, please note that I'm committed to trying to help the creators out rather than antagonize them. Please do not go out of your way to attack or harass anybody who's discussed. This behavior will not be tolerated. Also, please note that my videos are intended for more mature audiences, so viewer discretion is advised. Here's also a list of content warnings which I highly advise you read before continuing. The video shall begin right now. Hey, this has been long overdue. Before I start the main topic for this video, I'd like to apologize for my unfair portrayal of Blocky in my last rant. Most parts came off as unfair and ignorant of the guy, and like blind defense for who we criticized, Boxies. While many of his initial criticisms were flawed, my video was overall a mess too. Of note, I was especially ruthless when covering Glunkin or Grime, harshly scolding the actions of a teenage grooming victim and painting them as nothing but trash. While their actions did go too far, my lack of emotional intelligence or empathy for this victim was wrong. Didn't help that some of my information was inaccurate or based on hearsay, not proven evidence. Even still, it was definitely gross of me to spend this much time on decrying a kid who dealt with so much trauma from such events. I just came off as an inconsiderate jerk who cared far more about the virtue of false allegations than to consider their emotions a bit, even if I disagreed on the claims they made against Boxies. This same mistake was about to happen again for this video too, against another figure named Sav. She too is a victim of CSA who didn't respond well at first to the situation I'll be talking about today. Both her and Blocky gave unsavory first impressions, a feeling that was shared between us. Fortunately, unlike the first case though, I came to my senses and talked things out before releasing my spite for anyone to see. For all this trouble, I sincerely apologize to all three for how I handled their respective situations. I take full responsibility for any damage I caused. Such guilt is the main reason I considered shafting this video months ago. However, even if I'm late with my response, and it really shows, I didn't want my better criticisms towards the main subject to be wasted. If nothing else, it should be a reminder for this person to take this seriously and to improve their act, like I had to. Anyhow, shortly following the release of my video about Mr. Blocky, focus began to shift onto another controversy which is connected to Blocky and Boxies, but not where either are major figures. This relates to another person who also fell into the niche of covering gross DeviantART types and was formerly host of the package reviewers friend group, Carno Productions. However, in this case, the usual content isn't exactly relevant for the most part. Since 2022, but especially during 2023 up to now, Carno was the subject of some serious accusations. Most importantly, claims that he is a predator began spreading. I'll save certain details for when they're most needed, but what's important here is that Carno seems to be in deep trouble and cliques within the ranting community. In response, he released a video in mid-June defending himself. This ended up being heavily panned and received a couple of response commentaries. And yeah, it was deserving of that. Although, unfortunately, most of them weren't really good, so I kinda had to respond to this myself as a result. What needs to be said before we start is Carno absolutely bungled up his chance to clear things up. The video itself is abysmal and messy from nearly every aspect. The best way I can describe it is that it's a disorganized, non-apologetic fart of ego protection at its core. Also, before we start, we have to go through a whopping 2 minutes of 3 separate disclaimers. And holy Filbert, these are some of the messiest I've ever come across. The first of these is a call against harassment, complete with a graphic of a poor guy surrounded by a group of bullies. It also has very gaudy and difficult to read text. Nauseating. Although there is a robot voice summarizing it too. The thing about that is,
spreading false info is drawing the line, and comparing them to other people is just flat out retarded.
What a lovely start. But, get this.
If you are actively spreading false info and abusing stuff to get people to join your side, you're retarded.
Yes, apparently using that one ableist R word is a smart idea to include in your serious disclaimer. Twice even. Especially so for one that's meant to discourage attacking people. If that's any indication, this will be really fugly. After that mess, Carno puts a copyright disclaimer which serves to remind you that this video indeed falls under fair use. Visually it's the best presented of all three, even if the wording is incomplete. This is evident by the audio, which,
Copyright disclaimer under section 107 of the
Oh, hi there, Demo Man from Team Fortress 2. Nice of you to narrate this part. Say, you sound awfully synthesized today. Wonder why that is,
Scholarship!
I highly doubt you got the permission of Gary Schwartz to nab his voice for this project. I also doubt that would fly under fair use either. But even ignoring the moral and legal issues surrounding generative AI voices like these, what was the need for using Demo Man's voice here? Scratch that, why was this disclaimer needed at all? Well, Well, near the end of it, this is his reason.
Reason why I'm saying this is because this idiot has a history of false striking people.
Oh, that's great to know. Wait, who's the idiot? Well, I guess it's me, because fortunately for us, Carno provided subtitles with added context, adding someone named Skyyler, who we'll get to. But, like, this detail isn't immediately obvious. Plus, like the previous disclaimer, it's very unprofessional. Speaking of subtitles, I think I'll need to use them when he actually starts talking. It's less that I have trouble understanding him, but I don't want to put the burden on you in case you have trouble grasping what he says.
If the video's gone, then you know I just like the last guy. Fucking
Remember, we're only halfway into these disclaimers. Seriously, why? Oh shit, the alarm's going off. That means shit's real now. This is the last of these disclaimers, and also the longest of them. It serves as a list of sensitive topics, but even that feels botched.
This video contains mentions of false pedo, groomer, and predatory allegations, trauma, starvation, suicide, life-ruining claims, and many more awful stuff.
Carno, I'd focus more on the fact that topics like grooming and pedophilia, very sensitive issues, are even part of this. Not that the claims about those are false or life-ruining. Also, with the trigger for starvation, a warning for self-harm would have made more sense. After all, there will be mentions of it later in this video. Starving yourself is only part of that. Am I nitpicking? Guess I should be careful of that. Whatever, let's just get these disclaimers over with.
This is the only way to help clear my image, because this has been getting closer to pushing me to the edge of giving up. I've tried everything and this is the only chance I've got.
I don't know if this is distasteful or not with the whole giving up thing, just something feels kind of wrong about how you're presenting this as the only way to clean your reputation. Hate to assume the worst, but this can easily be taken as you writing off these heavy claims for your personal benefit. Trust me, I've seen this manipulation happen. I'm not here to judge that, yet, but the wording implies something's up. Already we have a spiteful stank lingering over this, with a dash of ableism for extra grossness.
He's being labeled as a racist, groomer, and homophobe. I don't care if he's struggling because of this false stuff. We're gonna spread it anyways because he'll be fine if he is 100% dead because he doesn't care about anyone but himself.
Ooh, adding a straw man into the pot too, aren't you? Nasty.
I just want to ruin his life because he's a selfish monster and groomed me despite me lying my age to get involved with flirting with adults and many more.
Carno, you absolute boof. Can we get some actual context first before you unload these claims onto us? If the watcher has no clue what this is about, they'd be confused. If they do know the context, well, it makes you look like an asshat. Especially before you even try to counter these allegations. I mean, this is obviously referring to a supposed victim you want to unleash your rage towards. Don't worry, we'll get to them in a bit. Hopefully.
This is going way too far, man. Like, I don't even know what I did to deserve this. All I did was just cut ties with someone taking advantage of me, forcing me to cut ties with one of my girlfriends, and then, boom, World War III just started happening.
Reminder, World War III didn't start because of the targeted countries of the week. It was due to this man's foolishness in cutting off a friend. Oh, wow. Kindly, quit with your theatrics. I think me spending so much damn time on just the opening is evident on how poorly Carno is handling such serious matters about himself. Case in point, when responding to what appears to be a livestream snippet of Sav shitting on Carno.
Who is, Julian's Batman channel friends with Carno Productions? That's the child predator I was talking about.
Affirming he's a child predator, he pulls out a lovely twofer of...
Yo, is this person fucking retarded?
God damn, this really is stuck in the 2016 era of cringe commentating, down to the Leafy sound clip. But hey, maybe that horrid impression doesn't overshadow his actual defenses for the rest of this.
Hello, I am Carno, or as many of you guys know me as Carno Productions. I am a 20-year-old YouTuber who has been dealing with false pedo/grooming allegations for almost 2 years at this point. To the point where it's time for me to break my silence. I know I haven't said anything in like a long while, but this is starting to get really annoying and I've been trying to collect evidence to help defend myself against these false claims. I've been dealing with a massive amount of anxiety and weight loss, and not the healthy kind. And mainly because of this brain dead female who legit screams, I have drama as a tattoo.
Okay, we already have a main character in this story. That doesn't raise my confidence one bit.
I got some rules to follow to the point where I have to have some of my families. If you guys are still here, thank you. I know some former fans left because this is false stuff, but I need to say this clearly to make sure you guys don't go absolute berserk on anyone else. Because if you've not seen this one, you know what this means. Do not harass anyone, but I will warn you, this is something I've been planning for ages, like a long time.
Considering how long this supposedly took, you'd have less of an excuse to mess this up. Since we're finally about to get to his actual argument soon, I need to discuss his defense video more generally. Despite this being branded as a video where he defends himself, especially from false claims, calling it that would be mostly inaccurate. Most of this speaks against select critics of his who have made the most intense claims.
I got a drive on this, but I've decided to keep people separate. I'm starting with the biggest to the main perpetrator of this shit.
And in the interest of giving my own thoughts, I will be discussing some of these myself. A general theme though is that I'll mainly direct my attention to the more serious matters, and less so for minor problems. This includes the stuff mentioned in a Google Drive Carno made that the video fails to address. It begins by covering a ranter named Skyyler Kingery, aka Opulent Sky, somebody who does have little room being in this feud and has proven to be quite the jerk. He's also someone Carno had history of covering, having an episode of his rant series dedicated to him. However, Skyyler didn't take fondly to that rant. It wasn't a very good one, I'll say that much. But he went a step farther.
And one of the people who went after me falsely took down my call-out video on him because I used his OC with quotes, and now I can show the actual image of his OC, so I had to resort to this. So, this is better than nothing.
And apparently, this is because Skyyler is really defensive about people using his Zillas, sorry, I mean OCs, hence the use of a low-quality face, seemingly his. Obviously, I'm not okay with him just striking the video down like that, especially for those reasons. And at least with that in mind, the copyright disclaimer from earlier at least makes a bit of sense. While that appears to be the main reason for his section being included, he has also trashed on Carno before and labeled him as a pedo due to the grooming stuff. Despite this fact though, here's how he starts talking about Skyyler.
Skyyler is an almost 30-year-old child. This said person has got on after a lot of people over the stupidest things. He's gotten mad over Kong fans, takes from years and years ago, stuff from almost 10 years ago. He also dogged someone's email, almost drove someone to suicide, and talks about the name of Sonic Lou. I don't really care to pronounce his name. If you don't know who this guy is, he wanted news of a minor. I did not stutter. And this was recent.
The main weapon in Carno's arsenal is to expose the critics right back, rather than disproving any lies they may have said. Hell, a bulk of this exposing isn't even about stuff related to Carno, but instead other actions from these people separate from that. It's not like this is entirely a bad thing, as there will be some I'll mention. Skyyler doxing an email is objectively terrible, as would him attacking someone to consider suicide. There's also stuff shown later where he says the N-word, hard R, although Skyyler says these are fake. With that in mind, most of what I just shown is rather insignificant and irrelevant. In the case of Skyyler bringing up takes from years ago, Carno provides no evidence for this, especially with his upwards of 10 years claim. Even the Google Drive fails to validate it. Also comes across as a double standard, with many of these posts used for evidence being from 2020 to 21, upwards of 4 years. Maybe he meant that in context to his own takes, but it doesn't take a smarty to notice a problem with that logic. Also, about that claim where Sanulianic apparently wanted illicit images of a minor, I really wouldn't be holding this against Skyyler unless he was aware of it and cited anyway. Which, judging by the date of these comments, he literally couldn't initially. These exchanges between the two span from October 15th to 16th, 2023, whereas the Discord DMs that ask for lewd photos are from a day later on the 17th. Oh, and putting that aside, this probably isn't the pic you'd want to use as proof. At least according to Kagevista's DeviantART bio, they were born in 2003. If that's accurate, they would actually be 20 during these, meaning they could consent. But even in the worst case scenario where what you're saying is true, why are you outing Skyyler for this? All for what? Just to add an extra layer of guilt onto both parties? That's fucking petty. Not to mention, whatever thing Sanulianic's been tied up in isn't relevant to your own grooming allegations. It just comes off as you being desperate to find a problem. Hell, could even be projection on your end. I'm not a groomer, but you talked to one! Sadly, this isn't going to be the last of that. Fortunately, I guess, Carno mentions that Skyyler also made an exposed video about him.
He uploaded a video called CarnoProductions Exposed, which is 80% of someone else's content, which To be honest, that should have been like taken down.
Alright, putting aside the irony of this for a bit, this description isn't that misleading. Much of it is an excerpt of another exposing video done by Ryazor the Izor, aka Homeless Guy, or Ryan. Also, as a heads up, we will return to Ryan's video eventually. While I agree Skyyler doesn't add much, at least for his initial video, I do think having this context is important. Yes, the original video remains up, but it may not stay that way. Plus, credit was provided to Ryan, so at least Skyyler's not claiming he made it. Doesn't justify him taking down your video about him though. More confusing with other videos like Eric Zilla's remaining up. Based in Lizard Icon, by the way.
There's been multiple videos of calling him out on how dangerous Skyyler is. I was one of the first to get taken down by his OC. Also, look at this!
Well, since no one care about Carno anymore, I decided to give him a copyright strike on his rant video on me. Lol.
He's pretty much nutting that he actually took down this video.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. You know what else is weird? Partway through Carno's section, which is supposed to be about him, he changes the subject to another person named Bree. She was someone who worked more directly with Carno, but grew sick of his nonsense around 2021.
Let's head to the debunking of the second one, because they mentioned someone that I haven't talked to in a long while, who presently ran away from a call I was supposed to have. Oh, look who that is! The same person ran away during the call that I wanted to have with her.
In February 2022, Bree posted a short list of problems she had against Carno. Some are rather vague, but these include his continual venting about petty matters over others, and mistreating her during production of his magnum opus, The 2033 End, where she was a prominent voice actor. This was a 3-hour-long vanity project that acts as little more than childish DeviantART user war fantasy, painting him and his buds as the heroes, naturally.
Thanks, Cyrus. I'll have a great...
Needless to say, it was more of a cinematic disaster than present-day MCU garbo. But that's well beyond the scope of what this response is about. Apparently, Carno still has trouble letting go of this situation even after 2 to 3 years. So much so that this exact list of Breeze was a subject in his previous attempts to apologize and defend himself from as early as 2022. This is his most recent attempt trying to debunk these claims. Don't know why it's taken this many tries, but whatevs.
Here's the thing about debunk. Argument 1.
Constantly made petty events in the vent channel.
Okay, at this point, I gotta agree, you do have a point. Reminder, I was around 16 years old and pretty much like having severe moods and getting mad over the small things. Now look, I'm not defending myself on my past actions. As of recording, I am now 20, and this was 3 to 4 years ago, and I have changed a lot, and I mean a lot as a person. I've grown up, but if you decide to hold this today, you're just petty.
That's an interesting approach to take for this. You acknowledge your pettiness was a problem at the time, although you sound desperate to excuse yourself. It's not much of an apology in your case. I guess you thought it wasn't needed since you've made more direct apologies about these before, but still. You seem weirdly petty now over a 2-year-old list of issues you've repeated defenses for. Funny that. Most of these Carno doesn't provide anything special, so I want to single out this complaint.
Made the most concerning Tupper Box RPs. 2 characters said something about church burnings.
Yo, is this person fucking retarded?
Haha, eat my alien cheeks, dipshit. Anyway, yeah, Bree expressed serious concern over those specific Tupper Box roleplays, which I think is completely valid. But let's hear Carno's word on the matter.
Okay, these two are black metal stereotypes. I'm a fan of black metal. One of my favorite artists is Dark Funeral. Now you got mad over these 2 characters. Crowd's gonna do a lot of changes as of, 2024. But I have a question. What are these?
Oh, what the fuck are you doing, Carno? Don't tell me you're gonna weaponize Bree's art she did of other OCs of yours who you consider worse as people?
Let's get some context. Asino.
God fucking damn it, he is.
He is a serial killer who kills for pleasure and a job. He has killed people from the age of 0 to elders.
Damn, he kills babies and the elderly?
And he's a massive dickhead to other people. Besides the people he likes.
Carno, this sounds like Baby's first jerk-ass character, focused more on making him shocking and evil than having actual substance. I don't know, maybe there's Carno lore I'm missing out on, not like I care enough to know.
William Blockclaw, which as of recording this, it is still on your DeviantART page, which no worries, I actually still love what you actually drew.
I don't think that flattery is appropriate here. Seriously, what the hell?
He is the devil. The devil himself. He also has an upgraded look today.
Carno, I don't give a Haspin Hotel-esque fuck. Your updates on Mr. Bloodcall mean literally nothing in this conversation. However deranged your creations are holds no relevance, especially when we have actual serious things to discuss, like the grooming claims against you which you're conveniently avoiding. This is supposed to be your defense video. Why are you spending this much on bullshit that doesn't even matter? Honestly, this is something you actually should have addressed about Bree. Carno has a very worrying history with her. What's not disclosed in her point about Carno overworking her is that apparently he made her record sexual stuff for this movie as well. Bree was 16 at the time, albeit Carno was around the same age during the film's production. Carno did make a not really apology about it. I'm sure he regrets it, but that doesn't excuse it. Past fuck-ups aside, despite Bree wanting nothing to do with him now, Carno is still clingy towards wanting to chat with her. Not really for romantic or sexual reasons, hopefully, but rather what appears to be deep insecurity. I guess it's an attempt to sort things out given the previous context. In late February 2024, he even made a plan to try inviting Bree onto his GC in an effort to speak with her again, despite the fact she blocked him. It's why he mentioned wanting to add her into a call and was upset when she left the group. You were 19 when you were desperate to reach out to her. What excuse do you have now besides potentially being bad at social cues? Either way, please respect her boundaries. Bree has you blocked for her own reasons. As much as I'd like to move on, since all this is doing is distracting from his deal with Skyyler, there's still some characters showcased which do more to incriminate Carno than help his case.
Mackenzie, yep, she's not mine. If you know about wise, you'll know what that means. No worries, I am winning the whole thing, but I still bring it up, really? That's like a little joke.
Okay, this isn't as significant as what's been discussed so far. I'd just like to point out that Carno has a weird interest with the infamous shooter, Randy Stair. But, you know, ironically. Notably, he created a themed Spotify playlist around Randy's Ember Ghost Squad delusions. I won't claim this is glorifying that tool, but optics-wise, it's one of the more suspect cases of your Edgelord irony poisoning.
Ivory Ultra, he's hateful. Like, he is just completely evil and hateful to a lot of people. Little no reason.
Just another badly written evil dude with no clear motive, though I will point out Ivory will come back to relevance a ways from now.
But also that he's a known S.A.
Oh, dear Jeebus.
God, I'm gonna be looking at an awful person when I make these characters, but you know, it shows the darkest side of humanity.
With you being caught in heavy allegations which aren't far removed from what you've described Velocidad as, what neuron in your brain made you think it was appropriate to mention having a sexual abuser in your character lineup? Screw that darker side of humanity excuse. This isn't the time or place to flaunt your crazed degenerates like fucking statues. It's baffling how insensitive you are about this. Why you spend any time on this rather than keeping focus on Skyyler or even Bree, I'll never understand. My gut says it's unchecked narcissism, but I'll get off my armchair. If anything, I'm just upset you didn't even highlight the Gen Z stereotype of yours. Remember that one? Great! Can we just get the fuck back on track?
Oh
shit, we're back to Skyyler again. Like, without a transition to the subject. Look, Mom, pancakes! Okay, sure, go with that.
You brought up this shit. That I did. I'm saving up for later because I've got a lot of stuff to say about her.
Saving that for later? No, it's been too long. I feel like now's the time I finally explain what this grooming stuff is actually about, since Carno prefers to stall on the little things. In early January 2022, Carno engaged in a roleplay session with someone who goes by the name Noah. Said RPs involved car crushing and Noah's OC Lily as a giantess. This ended with a drawing of Carno's which depicted this story. Just a reminder, these are both fetishes that Carno apparently has, which isn't a problem on its own until you discover the context. While Noah didn't admit it at the time, later that February, Noah confessed that they were actually 14 during this, and also that the character was essentially their Sona at the time. This is where Ryan's video from earlier becomes relevant, as during this time, he confronted Carno about these dubious drawings and invited him onto a Discord call which he recorded part of. For a while, this was the evidence Carno's critics cited as proof of Carno being a groomer or a child predator. Here's the clip in its entirety for context.
Groom a minor. It's actually illegal to still make those drawings. As you are promoting that type of action, I have actually multiple sources to this, by the way.
But from what I heard, Noah gave me actual permission to actually draw the character.
It doesn't matter on the permission, you're still sexualizing a minor, regardless, and that is still illegal. Even if you didn't know, you're still promoting the action. Every single excuse and argument you make doesn't literally, it literally doesn't affect it. You've just been checkmated.
Regardless of the excuse,
it is actually still illegal.
It really
and
is.
Yeah, it's still illegal to not only be sexual towards minors, but to even promote that behavior in general, regardless of what the context is.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, this comes from someone whose father's a cop.
It's not a particularly great piece of evidence, with Ryan sounding more like an annoying debate bro and his arguments being weak overall. I'm not even sure if the Protect Act of 2003 would be enforceable in this case. I doubt the government cares this much to pursue someone based on a few poorly drawn car crush cartoon fetish drawings, even if the subjects are morally iffy. But regardless of Ryan's lame-ass points, Carno's inability to defend himself on call did him no favors, especially since most view this as Carno admitting to the crime. While Carno was only 17 during these roleplays and unaware of the victim's age, I want you to keep this in mind as Carno continues to sweep this under the rug. Now don't worry, he'll get to it, but that context is essential for even understanding half of what's said later. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy him continuing to project onto Skyyler and the rest.
Is this something you want as a friend? Wishing death on people. I don't know where Godzilla and Allosaurus the King are, but I am so sorry that he had to deal with this. I am so sorry that I had to deal with him and his retarded goons.
Please, explain to me what your obsession with the arsenal is. You are abusing that word like an actually hateful piece of scum.
Also, if some people in the comments start whining in the comments about how say we talk, just shut up. If it's an autistic slur, then I have every right to say it. I can say it. I'm Hispanic myself, so I can use a Hispanic slur as I want as well.
Sure, like that helps you at all. Carno, as an autistic who has previously enabled the use of such harmful ableist language, and naturally regrets doing so and am sorry for, you fail to realize the impact of continuing to use such hateful words. I've already explained this to Blocky in the last video, but these words are used to appropriate genuine discrimination of disabled people, or at least use them to perpetuate gross stereotypes. Even in this case, where you can argue an ability to reclaim the slur, you're still saying it against others in a negative context, promoting its ableist usage. You randomly mentioning being able to use Hispanic slurs too since you are of that background is also a very flawed excuse. But admittedly, considering the other serious things in hand in this trash pile, I'd rather just leave it there.
Oh yeah!
Mr. Krabs! Sorry, gotta take this shit seriously.
He's talked to Antonio as well. Antonio, well, what's my feeling on him, man? I do think I was a bit too harsh and should have been calmer, but I have one question. So you think this is good? Skyyler, do you think this is good? And the answer is no. Oh, honestly, if you want to support Skyyler at the nearest driving someone to suicide, I hate to break it to you, you're without a doubt the stupidest person I have ever seen. He's been acting for almost 10 years. This is a Gavin Hill level of stupidity.
Firstly, from the screenshots provided, this Antonio person doesn't even have interest in pursuing this. We don't see anything which shows Skyyler continued to pester him about it either, so what's your deal? Yes, this guy has done bad things, but would these people who potentially side with him even know that beforehand? It's not really their fault for not knowing right away. Also, about that Dragonstorm 678 comparison, didn't you say something in your disclaimer telling others to not make comparisons like these? This may be a bit much to ask for, but practice what you preach, dingus. Besides, I literally have no clue who this Gavin jerk even is. Searching him up usually nets results for a fucking football player, making your comparison fall flat. And for the record, I'm not sure it was worth digging Skyyler's grudges against Christians and his teacher either. These may prove he's petty too, but this still has nothing to do with you. Ooh, that rhymed.
I forgot to mention, in the original video, he originally had my actual links on the description of his on his first YouTube video calling me out. But when I looked to take a screenshot of it, they were gone. So I guess YouTube might probably call him out or probably got rid of them himself. Either way, Skyyler, you're just proving my point that he harassed people.
As iffy as linking your profile might be, many critics do provide links to the original videos they comment on. This is done both as a form of credit and also so context is there for those to view it. Not sure what Skyyler's intentions of adding that in was, but I prefer not to jump immediately to it being malicious. It's also here I should bring up these racist comments of Skyyler's, the ones he claims were from a troll based on his TikTok. In fairness, it's fine to be skeptical that he's telling the truth. However, this reparental person, along with some other goons, insists that these are real because of this lack of visual proof besides displaying his own TikTok. And I call them goons because they're clearly rushing to cover Carno's ass. This Big Chungus guy also mentions how he was attempting to get Lyle Convoy roped into this, which, 1, this feels like a battle you should sort out yourself instead of relying on a tough guy praying he'd stand up for you, and 2, if you know anything about Lyle and Senate's history of treating victims poorly, it makes this decision look even worse in hindsight. Though to be blunt, there is a chance that he didn't know about that at the time. Actually, we need to talk more about Carno contacting Lyle. Not only was he trying to get him as little more than a bodyguard for the big stuff, Carno even tried to insert him into one of his failed resolutions with fucking Bree, which he planned out in advance. Seriously, what the hell kind of plot was this? It's already established Bree wants out of this petty, outdated feud. You were warned about this, and yet you kept trying and excusing yourself, attempting to get mutual buddies of yours to make this happen for months. You know what that can be considered? Cyberstalking. Leave this poor gal alone, and you wonder why she's now siding with Sav. But speaking of looking worse,
while editing this, I saw this. Something I did back when I was 14 years old proves my point that people are bringing up stuff I did back when I was under 16 and under 15 years old. Idiots!
Oh yeah, remember that whole grooming shit? Don't think I forgot about that either. Interestingly, this is for a separate incident from a few years earlier. Just like the Noah case, it involved them being included into his car crushing obsession. In fact, there were a few other reported examples of him doing this to other minors from the ages of 12 to 14 shown in the video. Now, given how long ago and how young Carno was at the time, I won't be too harsh on the instance he singled out. The others I mentioned are unclear when they happened, so I won't assume much about them. Unfortunately, this proves that Carno has at least involved multiple minors into this sort of art, something that is hard to distinguish as fetish material and ends up containing depictions of the underage in question. I'm still hesitant to call him predatory given his status as a minor as well during this, much less one that was under the age of 16. With that said, to call this grooming wouldn't at all be far-fetched, and putting it bluntly, Carno should have owned up to these acts and apologized when he had the chance if he wanted to look less guilty, and of course, been more careful and never made this mistake afterwards. But then again, I guess admitting you screwed up majorly isn't ideal in his mind.
As of 2024, he still has a grudge today. And he was Skyyler teaming up with someone who spam actual porn. The same person who has evidence of me, which proves proof is garbage.
Great, now we get to move on to his next topic of discussion, Mikan. This section is also attached to someone named Ringo, aka Dragonfruit, who has close ties to her. I will state this, I don't have plenty of nice things to say about either, but putting my feelings aside, I must acknowledge their role in calling out Carno. Those previous reports of him involving 2 other minors besides Noah into his crushing kink, you can thank them for those details. And to be as fair as I can, Mikan at least sounds reasonable with some of these claims. She's more thorough with these accusations compared to Bree, and speaks more about her own experience. There are problems I have though, which do harm her character. One thing you'll notice is that she brags about quote-unquote helping Carno, to the point where she feels betrayed and lashes out for being let go. After all, the two were apparently close friends at one point. According to her, she helped his server and friend group become less like an echo chamber. Carno claims that because she forced him to cut ties with another friend, he was being taken advantage of. The tone of this comes off as very spiteful as a result. Also, there's some stuff about denying Carno's attempts to commit suicide and how he can't feel upset by assholes making fun of his dead grandfather because he also mocked Haley, now known as Andrew's own dead father, as a sick joke. Like, yeah, this was probably just meant to call it his hypocrisy, and that's fair enough, but the way it was handled was disrespectful in itself. Carno, unfortunately, doesn't really address most of the complaints in his video, beyond a few vague allusions. Not really excusable for what's supposed to be an actual defense video, and much of this context is left out.
Oh man, this hurts to say. I've said this in this response I made, which, by the way, I still said what I said, like, a massive amount. Mikan was known to use a real person's actual face, which they wanted to be anonymous.
I also forgot to mention. They also bullied someone for this as well in telling them to kill themselves. People have said they're actual psychopaths, and the fact people are still talking to Mikan is disgusting and disturbing. They've legit sent death threats to people, so if you're okay with them, you're dumb as hell.
And she pretty much like falsely accused her of being a pedophile.
Oh shit, speaking of falsely accused, let's talk about that poorly tacked on edition where you claim Mikan insulted some self-described 17-year-old femboy, complete with blatant transphobia and a few KYS's. You're hinting that this was the same one who Mikan nabbed their face for, which I have trouble believing. At the very least, Noah, Carno's victim, was actually involved in this shouting match, and what they are saying here is objectively abhorrent. However, the deleted user who Carno insists to be Mikan is erroneous. She confirms in the comments that the one who made these remarks was someone else named Leon. This person was previously in friend groups Mikan was also in, so maybe this confusion wouldn't be too bad. Mikan herself, for one, doesn't blame him for it. However, I will not be so kind, because... well, look at this screenshot from Carno's drive. Notice how the conversation is exactly the same as the archived one he displayed at rapid speed. This one image inside Carno's evidence doc confirms Leon was at least one of the deleted users, contradicting his whole point that it was Mikan who said it. Total evidence fail.
Reminder, she's been going at the package for a long while.
Yay, the box is back. Anyways, there's some context to this, which I'll have to lay down. Carno, along with Mikan and Ringo, were former members of Box's Discord server. However, for reasons which mirror the ones that Bree stated, Carno was kicked out sometime in 2021. He claims to have no hard feelings, but still misses his stay there. I also need to state this as well, Mikan claims she didn't directly go after Box, although she did target some affiliated, Carno included. So yeah, add that to the pile of misinfo.
I think people have gone over it, well... except for one. Mikan spams real porn. And it's disturbing. Wonder what this reminds me of. Maybe these guys maybe are kind of similar.
I will take your—
Eat my alien cheeks again, Carno Bandicoot. Not sure what your deal is with making these leaping comparisons that contradict your own intro. I fucking wrote "oh whoa" intro in the script. Holy shit. Wow. Something that must be said, I have been told by some former moots of Mikan, including Noah, that she did do such spamming. Granted, with little context available, I can't accurately comment on that. What is known is that she ran a server under the name Girl's Revenge. This was alleged to be a raiding server and supposedly contained gore and pornographic content, despite the rules listing NSFW to be banned. Carno's doc even provides HTML archives of the chat, seemingly captured in November 2022, which confirmed Mikan and Ringo were present. However, I guess fortunately, most of the images weren't preserved. That said, here's a snippet where Mikan and someone named Honey Mercy mock an unsolicited dick pic from someone who was 17. The image thankfully wasn't shared, but what the fuck? Plus some other shit flinging that's bad, but not really worth dwelling on. Regardless of whatever icky transactions were made in these chats though, your archive fails to prove the claim that she actually spammed real porn. I get you shouldn't be showing such in the video, and that might get flagged in a Google Drive folder, but claims this severe need to be proven before being treated as facts. At the bare minimum, if you aren't going to show it, cite some witness accounts for this to seem less like possible slander. There's a reason why unproven claims are prefaced by terms like allegedly. Even then, are you forgetting this is a video meant to defend yourself again? Unless this is somehow relevant to you. Save this rant for another day.
Mingo ain't no saint either. He also falsely accused me as well with this screenshot. And bringing up stuff from like years and years ago. That's like bringing up something I did when I was 10. See how ridiculous this sounds?
Oh, like how you kept bringing up old nonsense from Skyyler while having no stake in that crap. Lovely. As for how Ringo plays into this, his attitude is very similar to Mikan's overall. He did have a history of being a predator hunter back on Twitter, which got ugly, though very little of that relates to Carno himself, so I won't be talking about it. There is, however, this one screenshot in a reply with Mikan. One of Ringo and Mikan's criticisms against Carno was how weirdly he handled the plagued moth situation. Details are fuzzy on the specifics, but Moth was cited as an influence by Carno in an archived screenshot from around the time he was outed. Ringo stated in his reply that Carno only pretended to care about his concerns during this time, which looks very bad on him with how horrific Moth's actions are. Even with their questionable means of tackling Preds, this confrontation of theirs is completely justified. If someone you know brings such serious allegations to your attention, you should research them and hear what they're saying. You can choose not to believe them, but at least provide more than just a performative head nod. Otherwise, Otherwise, it implies an apathetic stance on issues which are very serious. Something I am confident is the case, since Ringo mentioned elsewhere how you refuse to deal with a problematic member in your own group due to you not wanting to deal with drama. Weird when you've called out people like Rainbow Kitty who are known predators before. So not only can such ignorance be inferred as favoritism bias, but also performative with the skeletons you're hiding. We may have to return to this topic soon actually. As for that screenshot which outed you, even if those fetish requests were sent when you were also young, this doesn't disprove Ringo's claim of acting weird around kids. I do take issue with how this can be easily viewed as you being a pedo and not providing context for it, but this otherwise isn't a baseless accusation. After all, much of this has been proven beyond what's been said already. You should still acknowledge this was a terrible decision no matter what your age was, as what you did was indefensible.
Like Ringo says, oh, you did that a long time ago. I've got one thing. I was only 16 years old, and I was just freshly starting high school. Reminder, people can learn from their mistakes and learn. But Ringo, when he sees people change for the better or past stuff, he most likely still holds a grudge. Like, why'd you bring up stuff when I was like young, when I'm now 20 as of 2024?
Well, there's one essential reason for that, and it's due to how an error this bad has lasting effects. These effects are worsened when you try playing excuses like beginning high school rather than coming clean. Maybe none of these were intended grooming, but either way, it's worthy of being brought up given this is a repeated behavior. Reputation is just as paramount as your actions here, so victims will naturally be less accepting when you downplay these offenses. You need to prove yourself to have learned, which requires you to admit fault, preferably in a public statement. As is, it's very unconvincing you have true remorse.
Oh look, Carno because of kinky stuff when he was young and didn't know what he was doing. This proves he's still doing it today. Jesus Christ. This is slanderous to all hell.
Now, if Ringo is saying that, yeah, I do think that's him jumping to an extreme conclusion. These accusations need to be handled maturely, which is an issue I have with predator hunting communities failing to do, though I can only blame them so much with how many minors are in that community. From this comment alone though, that's not the impression I get. Notice how Ringo uses the term was rather than is, which if you use your brain for a second can be taken as something in the past. But again, your past actions have consequences. I agree it's probably unfair to beat these points to chunks like they're still relevant to how you are today, which can easily lead to a defamatory narrative, but you're undeniably at fault to some degree. Anyways, right after this, Carno turns to the guilt by association card again. How ironic. This time against their support of a certain brick dude I mischaracterized last time.
Oh yeah, I forgot you telling me Mr. Blocky. The same guy compared me to Julian? I think in the past? Hey Mr. Blocky, why did you compare me, a 17-year-old who is being careless, to Julian, a person who wanted an 11-year-old to moan? And many more stuff.
Alright, unfortunately, due to Blocky's videos on Carno being removed, some important context is lost. However, I still have a few words on this particular comment. While it's undeniable what Julian did to this 11-year-old was slimy as shit, this could easily be viewed as them being careless too. Also, not saying this to pardon Julian, but he was also confirmed to be rather young at the time. Admittedly, I've heard conflicting reports on how old he was during that incident. Sav, in her response to you, said that Julian was around 14.
Julian was like 14 years old when this shit was happening.
However, in the comments of Variant S's response, Blocky shows up. He has more exact details saying Julian was actually 12 at the time, though later on that may have also been inaccurate and that Julian was actually in the middle. Honestly though, the age gap isn't too relevant here. While Blocky's own comparison isn't exactly equal, with these scenarios being fairly different, there is a limit to how far ignorance can be used to excuse yourself. If it didn't forgive Julian, it doesn't for you, especially when you're decently older.
Side note, please watch this video. It's a super great video.
Aw, psh off. Moving on, Carno then transitions to talking about somebody named Falcone360. He starts this segment off with this.
Hey, so I had to make my mic head a little bit closer to me cause, to make it more clear.
Yes, and apparently that was important enough to note, you know, instead of making acceptable points. I admit, I'm gonna be more brief when it comes to this Falcon guy, mostly because I can tell Carno's using him to distract from his experience with Noah for a bit longer. Although, he's far from a saint either. I am confident that he does harass people through alt accounts, which Carno shows in this video. He's also been claimed to have drawn NSFW art of people's characters without their consent, not just with Carno, but Noah as well. The details aren't really specified though, and even then, that isn't what Carno spends most of his time shitting on Falcon for. Like his priorities weren't already screwball enough, he gets on his ass more for reacting negatively to one of his characters in LGBTQ+ jokes.
He's known to be very PC, like legit. I feel like he's so goddamn PC to the point he's a goddamn lolcow. Hell, I even called him out before, like on my main account, and he got mad and he took it down. Like the comment blocked me.
Wow, so 2016, but with a Wojak. Because he's awful at giving context, this is about his Ivory Ultra character. We don't exactly know why Falcon reacted negatively to it, but Carno sure loves pummeling him over it.
He got him out for making jokes on the LGBTQ+, which is just ridiculous because here's the thing. You aren't immune to jokes. And make jokes on a lot of things. I have a dark sense of humor.
Oh my dinko, he said it! He said the line! Holy fuck! Beyond that, I need you to explain yourself. If you wanted a reaction, and you got exactly what you asked for, why are you complaining for getting one? Gotta say, dark sense of humor motherfuckers are oddly fragile when people take issue with their shitty attempts at jokes. The irony is not lost on me.
Like, don't forget, my main inspirations for, these jokes is Dave Chappelle and South Park and Family Guy and other stuff.
I'll say, for your sense of humor, it's very surface level black comedy. Probably why it's not very funny or interesting.
Falcon actively fights over people for the stupidest of reasons, like, stuff doesn't even revolve around him.
Like you don't? What has half this video even been anyway?
I'm not even taking you seriously anymore, Falcon. You're just putting something really, really stupid.
Bruh, do you have no self-awareness to what you've been molding at Falcon for? But let's not get carried away here. This coping and seething is sandwiched between a couple more serious issues, because Carno can't seem to have a response video be actually cohesive. For one, he gets on Falcon for spreading claims about him being a pedo and sharing a drive against them, which he says is false. No context is given for these, unfortunately. Not that I'm shocked. He has also contacted others who shared the same sentiment, like Skyyler and Noah. The latter name he's especially mad at, saying the following.
You also seen him with Noah, you know, the person who made me starve myself and take me to the hospital?
No, you didn't just resort to that plea for sympathy to make us feel bad for you. Please, let that just be a flub.
This is a real picture of what happened here.
Oh, that's an image of Carno admitting to performing self-harm used as an attempt to guilt trip us. Ugh. Fuck right off and eat my whole alien posterior.
Like, if you're spreading false pedophile claims and to the point you're close to taking someone's actual life, get the hell out of the internet. You don't deserve anything. That is a actual murder attempt.
Look, I feel sorry that you were almost driven to death because of this stress. You don't deserve any of that. However, what you're doing can't be viewed as anything more than emotional manipulation. This seedy tactic is inexcusable for any accused person to do, mainly when it looks like you're using these injuries to bait sympathy and play victim. Oh, and may I remind you, Noah is one of the main people that's themselves a victim of your bullshit, you spineless rat. Oh, and by the way, in order for this to properly be attempted murder, someone like Noah would need to prove that they had intentions of wanting you dead. No, a stray kill yourself comment doesn't count, even if it would still count as bullying. If they saw you consider self-harm and cheered that on, that's potential evidence. But besides one comment you show later hoping you starved yourself, not from Noah by the way, but their ex, your case is flimsier than a rusted Cybertruck. Or I guess in your case, a rusted monster truck, cause I know you love them.
But Falcon, on the other hand, he is, still to this day, making point on people without the consent, which, stop. Come on, like, please stop.
You know what really should be stopped? You projecting. Speaking of, we now finally get to Carno's shitfest with Noah. I hope you like spite and apathy, because that's what's on the menu today, my fellow lizard dorks.
We are here to talk about someone who has given me sleepless nights and took me to the hospital, because how bad she was. Noah, or as I call her, Mrs. False Allegation.
God, this attempt at a defense feels like a broken record. Dude, we fucking get it. No need for the playpen insults.
Noah was one of my ex-friends, and if I would have had a severity of how evil these types of people are, who I have talked to, Noah is like, the top of the top, bottom of the barrel of the worst friend I have ever had.
Gee, I couldn't tell Noah was evil. Not like what looks to be an obvious demonic edit of them hasn't been plastered all over this. I'm just more baffled that despite them being explicitly brought up multiple times by now, and being by far the most important figure, they're the last one to where Carno provides defense. It's like this whole video was made to hype up how disgusting they are. Also probably because he can't reasonably prop himself up as in the right. Anyways, after taking far too long to actually address his situation with Noah, Carno finally tries to debunk the grooming claims. This includes actually showing the Giantess RP and the drawing he made of Noah's persona, albeit a truncated display of both. Kinda manipulative when you do that shit.
Noah also falsely accused me of being a pedophile. Warning, these shoutouts are going to be very, very cringeworthy. So, here they are.
Literally DeviantART here. My god.
Now, here's the story. So, back when I was 17 years old, I did a roleplay with Noah. Now, I didn't know her actual age at the time. Her fake age was actually 18, and she is known to lie about her age. Like, a lot to get into stuff.
Okay then, should have made this point earlier considering most of the previous discussions were about this exact accusation, but whatever. I'll say, the lack of transparency towards Noah's age during the RPs would lend credence to the idea that Carno didn't groom them. There's just a couple problems that don't make Carno's defenses hold much weight. For one, making this a Giantess RP was his own idea. Hell, someone got on his case for lying, claiming this was actually Noah's idea. No, Carno, here's you bringing the Giantess concept first. All Noah said to this was, I guess, which is not a confident approval. Also, there's the drawing, which I've mentioned before is said to contain Noah's Sona at the time, Lily. Although, info's actually a bit conflicting with that. Mere days before the RPs, Noah claims that this Lily is a separate character. So, what the hell is it then? For this case, I'll just assume this RP was done before that shift. But, you know what does concern me? The context for this specific info dump. This was replying to someone named White Arcanine. Arcanine is a total fucking mess. Remember that segment in my Blocky video where I discussed Pink Kitty, aka Dark Lord Henry? He goes by Andrew now, and Arcanine is the very same slimeball. Admittedly, I did accidentally dead name the person as Henry, not realizing he goes by Andrew now. My apologies for doing that in the original video. That is the only apology I can give to him though, as he's genuinely got predatory tendencies for days. Weeks even. And like many of them, he is an irredeemable asshole and a manipulative liar. This claim Noah reacted to, that he doesn't sexualize people, absolute fucking falsehood. Don't forget, Andrew was dating a minor named Chelly for much of the previous year, and not only were they, along with Carno, included into his questionable shipping art, Andrew publicly sexualized Chelly Sona when they were around 13 to 14, and Andrew was 18. Now, one could make the defense that Andrew was gaslit too. Like Noah, Chelly also lied about their age until the relationship was over. Noah even mentions them specifically. However, what was Andrew's way of handling things? Throwing them under the goddamn bus. And I hate to say this, but I think you're doing the same thing to Noah here, Carno. Plus, why the hell was Andrew, someone you knew was dangerous, even in your orbit? You've made numerous videos and posts calling out his behavior, including rants on other potential groomers. Although, I guess I shouldn't be too mean, you are one of his victims after all. Also, remember that Noah wasn't the only one Carno's drawn unwise art of in this variety. At least 3 other people have come forward about receiving similar art as minors. Chelly's even expressed negatively on their experience with him, so that's adding extra concern. Even if these weren't meant to be sexually suggestive or anything, it's still suspicious. Knowing you have a Giantess side account on DeviantArt for fetish purposes sure isn't doing you any favors, which was open when this was made. You might be able to write those off as you being a stupid kid yourself, but again, you were nearly an adult when this stuff was made for Noah. Plus, despite later telling the truth about their age a month later, and demanding you delete the art and RP messages, you failed to comply. In fact, you failed to comply for 2 years. Your inaction and vain attempts to seem innocent aren't convincing me you're actually sorry. Why else are you basically victim blaming them? Oh, and one last thing I should mention. Besides this one exchange admitting they lied to you about how old they were, where's your actual proof? That very screenshot isn't even present in this video, but is in your drive. I can't excuse such important context being left off screen. Somehow that wasn't included, but worthless memes and irrelevant crap couldn't be forgotten. But even if it was included, this doesn't mention they claim to be exactly 18. And about that message, I've received some additional insight from Noah's side. From what they've said, that notice from February was apparently sent to all their friends because they did lie about how old they were in 2020. Interestingly, they claim to have never sent their misleading age to Carno. Instead, this idea that Noah was 18 stems from other mutuals telling him they were. Carno apparently never asked to confirm this. So yeah, if that's the truth, you'd be even more in the wrong for not checking. With how low effort this response has been, and your previous record of shady behavior, what more should I expect?
As of today, she is 16 years old. She is turning 17 this year.
Sleazebag, you mentioning how old they're gonna be really isn't helping your fucking case. It makes you look more like a total creepazoid.
Now reminder, she lives in Portugal, a country I don't even know much about. I live in America.
Wow, you sweat burgers and bleed imperialism. What does this shitty point even prove against Noah? Just do research on Portugal then, you ignorant dunderhead. Even with search engine and shitification, you can still find valuable info on that country easily. I'll say this much, you're doing an amazing job upholding the dumb American stereotype. If it's not American, blow it the fuck up!
Now, what I did was careless, and I understood what I did was wrong, and I said accountability. But if you're gonna say this is grooming,
shut your ableist mouth up for 1 second, please. Look, I don't want to jump the gun by calling you a genuine child predator, like what Sav and a few others have. Even in the Noah case where there is no excuse for your actions, you need to know that they weren't an adult at the time for any claims of pedophilia to amount to anything. Although, I will have to ask these few questions. Were you careless? Yes. Does that make you innocent or forgive your sins? Not exactly. You should have noticed the problems at least when Noah admitted they were 14. Was this grooming? I think that's hard to argue against. I'm sure you're smart enough not to do this, currently. However, this could have easily been avoided by not drawing this scenario at all. It does unfortunately have suggestive undertones which you should have retracted much earlier. And I'll just say, you rushing to be viewed as a victim yourself reeks of desperation. Besides, all Noah really demanded was you to delete this material and say sorry. That's about it. If that was too hard for you, well, that only allows these claims of predation to seem more believable. Predators have a tendency to deflect blame like what you're doing and pretend they've done nothing heinous. This doesn't make you one on principle, I'm just stating how suspicious your actions have been. As usual though, this may just be a product of your inflated ego.
No one's even learned anything. No one's learned anything about false allegations. They haven't learned anything. They haven't learned about Spark back then before what he did now. No one learned about Inquisitor. Quite just a robot. Pyro cynical. Many more had their lives ruined over false allegations. I myself am a part of this.
Okay, did you really have to make such a spectacle out of this, including a playlist about past examples? Let me be straight with everyone. Or bisexual, I guess, I don't know. People who knowingly spread false allegations disgust me. I don't want jerks perpetuating lies about you, such as you being an actual predator. However, when it comes to you potentially being a groomer, it's more of a gray area. Sure, you were misled about Noah to some extent. Regardless, that doesn't give you a pass for drawing them in what's essentially fetish art and not removing it when told. Them being a liar doesn't negate being a victim of yours at all. This response has only done more to sink your goodwill and chances of forgiveness for many, and I don't blame them.
This not only caused me to have sleepless nights, this made me become an ordinary as well in a bad way. I lost a massive amount of weight. I used to be 136 pounds, healthy build, now I'm 113 pounds. After making this script, I probably went down like a lot lower as I'm making this as well.
And again, dumping all this crap about your declining health, blaming Noah for it, isn't helping. I'm not mocking you for hurting yourself like this. Any who do lost their ticket to heaven. But when this is about claims of you grooming that person, this sob story feels like a punch to the goddamn throat. Read a room, please. Speaking of...
Noah also got mad over this drawing. Reminder, this is inspired by a Cannibal Corpse song called Stripped, All Worded, and Strangled. Yeah, I didn't want to say it the first time.
You seem fine with the other R word though. Why now all of a sudden you care about sensitivity?
Which was part of the album, The Bleeding, which came out on April 11th, 1994. 30 years ago, they performed this song live to this day. Like, I understand she got mad a little bit, but this was like years and years ago. Like, why are you bringing it up in 2024 Just asking.
I mean, rape is a very triggering subject. Some people hate its portrayal in media. That includes the Cannibal Corpse song that this is based on. These days, tackling this stuff just for shock value or without tact is considered taboo, since it may downplay something that scars victims for life. So you bringing up how this 1994 song still gets played live doesn't change this fact. Look, I'm not asking for this subject to be banned from media altogether. Puritans be omega stupid at media literacy, and there's definitely value in exploring those themes in art. I'm just explaining why someone like Noah would be appalled by that shit. Worse so, given all the context surrounding your optics. Following that distraction, Carno then informs us about how truly evil Noah is, besides all the other stuff, I guess. Apparently, Noah has an ex who says they manipulated and abused him. Some claims have sparked that they've even cheated on this ex and a couple others. I'm not one to pry into whatever relationships they were in though, so I won't try determining anything. Not like this had good reason to be inserted from the get-go. Even if this is confirmed, you're still deflecting. It's here where Carno's vengeful attitude absolutely peaks.
She doesn't deserve a single thing at this point. How did she get away with this? It's beyond disturbing. I've heard people are gonna be making car videos on her, which, thank you. Let's see how awful of a person she is. She is nothing but complete evil.
Oof, smooth move, dickbutt. I'm afraid for how that's gonna pan out. Given you also tried accusing people of life-ruining shit while lacking evidence, despite preaching against that earlier, I don't have much confidence. Who knows, maybe Noah is a total snake. I'm just saying, your spite and anger indicate you want them destroyed, by any means necessary. Actually, let's go back to his stupid drive again. I checked the Noah section to start, and clicked on the first item listed. What the ever-loving fuck is this supposed to mean? Also, Carno, you weren't even 21 yourself yet. What did you mean by this? For that matter, what is up with these image titles? These aren't convenient at all to search. Some of them, especially for Skyyler's portion, don't even have actual file names. I guess he didn't get the memo that professionalism and tidiness are a necessity for evidence docs. I'll be singling out some of the worst included here, providing the image context for each respective title. Highlights include, "You did. You never did. I'm a virgin, Lamau. I was under 16 as well, Arsler. Still not listening to my side. X2 doubt." And easily the worst of these, "You weren't groomed by me at all." This beast, I swear to Kylo. Oh wait, I forgot to read this thing before I started browsing. Whoopsie, what a mark of effort this is. These kinda mirror the regular disclaimers from the beginning, but he did add a list of wants at the end. Such wants included, "People apologizing towards me," which is something you have to earn, by the way. "A calm and civil discussion," something you fail to even provide your damn self. "Actually hearing my side of the story, and I'll tell them everything." Actually, tell it all regardless. And finally, "Some friends to come back." How insecure are you with these friendships, man? I get being left in the dust sucks and all, but you can't just force past friends to come crying back to you. That's not a healthy bond. That's abuse. Screw this noise. Anyway, back to this smelly video.
As of not long ago, someone named of staff thought it'd be a good idea to join a pedo bandwagon, along with someone who, by name is 1999 the Green Kaiju. So that was fun. And Sav's I listed Mr. Blocky, which video on his actions in the description below of how much of a scumbag he is.
Carno, that was almost exclusively about Blocky's bad handling of the box situation, which you were barely even a footnote in. Even then, a lot of my narrative against Blocky doesn't hold up to present day. While he does have an ego on him and has handled messes in questionable ways, even I wouldn't hold him up as some evil scumbag. Though that's probably because I actually sorted things out with him and listened to his own criticisms. In fact, speaking of scumbags, you would not believe how Carno tries to defend himself next.
As of 2024, I've told my mom and dad about this after wanting him for ages. They're on my side. All my old friends know about this as well, and they're on my side.
Oh my Gwimbly! Carno, are you seriously using your friends and family's views as ammunition? Is the bar really that low? Oh wait, yes it is. I especially hate how you bring up your parents being on your side. No shit they would vouch for you, being their own son and everything.
I want a massive apology from everyone who has wronged me. I've told my therapist about this because this stressed me out badly, and that I had to return to therapy because of this. She said what I did wasn't even grooming. Careless? Yeah. Grooming? Nope!
What authority does your therapist have in this? All they can do is state their opinion on the matter, based on the story you provided. What do you think she is? A lawyer? I would not try to guess this up. Also, apologies need to be earned, and the feeling doesn't look mutual to me. You barely sound sorry in the slightest.
To everyone who has wronged me, I have one question. Why did you do this to me? Like, why did you all do this to me? Didn't you think you were going way too far, like actively spreading false, slanderous information and realizing this isn't gonna make any sense anymore? Noah, Mikan, why did you do this? You two are literally the most evil people I've ever seen.
Worse than your own psycho OCs? Worse than Andrew, who you were a grooming and harassment victim of? Man, that really says something about your standards.
Think I'm racist for not supporting an organization who has committed a lot of crimes and scammed donators?
Okay, randomly, this became about your views on Black Lives Matter, because of fucking course it did. Yes, Mikan did criticize you for this, but that's a nothing burger compared to the main topic.
Honestly, if you guys are watching this, shame on you. You have done a massive amount of damage to everyone and the people you have harmed. Mikan, I want you to get your head out of your ass and grow up!
Yes, says the 20-year-old who's butthurt about being criticized by a teenager.
Noah? Yeah, get out. Leave the internet forever. I don't care what happens to you anymore. You're just evil.
As if you blaming them for damn near everything is that much better. Look, I don't think some are handling this in a good way, including those two at times. That said, you need a break from the internet yourself. This has proven to cause you stress. It's best not to worsen it by continuing to vent about these dorks. All it's led to is a lot of hate and self-immolation. Anyways, here's him trying to pick apart Sav.
Not long ago, Sav 1999 apologized to me for not hearing my side. But Sav have refused to listen to my side, and of course told me to kill myself, which is petty and disgusting because I've almost stoned myself to death because of this. Sav, listen to me please. You need to stop getting yourself involved in this crap nowadays. It's extremely toxic, and this toxic is like pretty much like dead as of 2024. It's getting retarded each day. My idea is to stop what you're doing and leave me alone.
Sorry, but if you've got suspicious qualities and skeletons in your closet, no. You don't have the right to tell her or other critics to leave you alone. Sure, Sav did amplify this incident far more than she needed to. Her telling you to kill yourself was awful, and I didn't like that she was so insistent on you being a child predator, based mostly on that Ryan clip from earlier which barely proved anything. That's to say nothing about her terrible video response to you as well. But cutting all that crap out, you dismissing their otherwise reasonable negativity and lashing out just to save your fragile complex makes any argument of you being innocent less believable. Especially for this atrocious Crybully video. Also, please, actually plan these videos out better. I mean it. I had to skip so much unrelated bullshit that you crammed in between you spitting your bile on Sav. The disjointed flow proves to me how little thought you put into this.
Also, if you say I have victims as well, you're just pulling this out of your ass. This is like playing moth slander, and we all know how bad he was.
Bitch, there are receipts. People have come forward about the stuff you drew of them you absolutely shouldn't have. Even if you can claim these not to be grooming, they are at least victims of your carelessness. Also, third time you broke your own goddamn comparison rule, and easily the worst of all. Literally rules for thee but not for me type crap. Honestly, I don't have much more really left to say. The fact I've spent an hour tearing apart this heap says a lot about how unpleasant this all is. Just to cap this off, I'll play his concluding thoughts.
I am so done with this. I am done talking about this. Permanently. This is without doubt the most stressful video I've ever made. And I was literally shaking because of actual fear. Because this hurts on a personal level. Just please just apologize to me. I don't know what I did to deserve this. This has gone super far and way too far. I nearly left the internet because of this.
Listen, I understand that some of the pressure you've been put under has been escalated to extremes. There's a million words to describe how badly figures like Sav handled your controversies, including that Andrew scumbag you foolishly tolerated, who took this reputational hit to claim you raped him, desperate to cancel you and potentially mask his own crimes. They aren't helping and do more to trivialize an otherwise gross subject. I also think it's valid to question all of the figures you added, even the alleged victims, due to each having messy leave records and reputations of their own. But even with this baggage aside, this video defending yourself potentially ruined your reputation. Permanently. It certainly failed as a way to clear your name. Half the video was just projecting onto your critics for unrelated garbage. Much of it you failed to provide solid evidence for in the first place. The excuses given for your own behavior are weightless at best and manipulative at worst. You basically apologized for nothing in this video besides a few vague gestures. And even if you admit to being wrong for your worst actions, like that roleplay with Noah, your attitude makes you appear more bitter than remorseful. Most importantly, you essentially blaming Noah for everything in this grooming ordeal to where you're throwing a tantrum for getting caught is deplorable as hell. Noah may not be squeaky clean, but this isn't an excuse to lash out. Mostly since it's not like they were this malicious to you at first. You've escalated this yourself. Your woe is me trauma dumping won't save you either. Even I'm pissed off personally that you used acts of self-harm to try silencing your detractors. Straight up manipulative, victim-blamey behavior. That will not help regain the friends you've lost, which you've shown inability to accept their right to move on from. Worse so with Bree, who you practically stalked. Also a complaint that comes from me needing to watch this multiple times for this commentary, the structure of your response was all busted. So much was spent on things that distracted from the main path or had no business being added. We especially didn't need a glorified advertisement for your crappy psycho OCs. Simply put, it feels less like you treated this seriously, but instead like an extension of your ordinary rants. I may dislike many actions from those spotlighted, but projection is always a bad move when trying to appear innocent. Even if I don't consider you anywhere near as abominable as those convicting you of predation see you as, you've only made this case worse for yourself with your neglect and equally hurtful responses. Be better than that, please. I get that when you're put under such pressure, it can be hard to think rationally. I'm probably not helping by making this response with such strong emotions. This just needed a better focus and a lot less projection. I also need to state, you don't deserve this pain extending to your physical health as well. I won't defend anyone who promotes it at your expense. Again, just don't guilt trip your viewers, that too is gross. And if you're still watching this, Carno, I hope you take my advice seriously. It'll be a challenge to rebuild any goodwill you've lost as a result of your ineptitude and selfish whining. That's if your chance of redemption isn't too late. Just let this be a lesson to think harder about your decisions. If this video of yours never came out, you'd seriously be in a brighter standing than what's come as a result. Simply accept that there are people, including myself, who lack trust in you after multiple major fuck-ups and being too stubborn to take accountability for years. I can't blame anyone being this upset at you with how badly you've behaved. Most so for the victims you directly insulted. Some will be unfair, but it's best to accept that and improve as a human being. I've had to accept such myself for my failures, and I'm sure you can too. Whew. So yeah, that's pretty much a wrap for this much delayed response. You can tell I meant to have this done by late August when this was more relevant. As for what I'll do next, that's kinda up in the air. I would prefer to do something less mentally taxing, something sillier than serious call-outs like these. I have vibed a lot less with the overly negative since work on this began. Guess you'll see in the coming months. There is, however, some unfinished business I need to attend to first, but I'll save that for its own video. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, this goofy little lizard needs some time in the summer sun. Ciao!